Good afternoon, or good morning, good day, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This will be number 5 and the final part of our webinar series on cleaning your project using the CTC Express tools. So today we are going to wrap everything up and hopefully bring things to a close on this particular series. And looking forward to kind of closing the door on this particular setup and moving on with some additional workflow type videos for you guys. So today we're going to wrap it up with one of our tools from the BIM batch suite. So just to kind of recap everything for you guys, for those that haven't been in attendance, we have been covering and discussing a handful of tools from various suites from CTC on how we can track and maintain projects or track projects and review them for company compliance or Revit design standards or best practices, and cleaning them up and maintaining and making sure that they are using the set of standards that have been instituted by the company. And as you all know, it's not very easy to do that with just Revit by itself, right? The tools somewhat exist there, but the ones that are available, it's very time consuming. It's usually a very manual process, and it takes a fair amount of time to really get going. So over the last 4 sessions, I've been showing you a fair amount of tools that will assist you and aid you in those processes. And again, to recap our issues here, project standards can be difficult to administer. Revit's tools are aren't quite there yet. And while the standards we're trying to implement can be simple at times, they can be very tedious to configure and very tedious to manage or maintain through the life cycle of a project. These are all of the products that we have covered to date. We started off in session 1 capturing all of this data using tools like Model Compare from the Project Suite and Project Snapshot from the BIM Data Suite, but then also the Project Activity Logger, which also comes with BIM Data Suite, but also is available using Hive Content Management System. Then we covered various other tools: Import Link Manager, Dimension Checker, Schedule Parameter Resolver, and Type Swapper, all from the Manager Suite, and Project Cleaner, sorry. And then we checked Spreadsheet Link and Revision Manager and View Creator from the Project Suite. And today we are going to talk about Project Processor. And Project Processor is from our BIM batch suite, and this tool does a lot of what some of these other tools do, but all inside of one application. So things like managing links, swapping families, renaming views and sheets, creating sheets and views, and various other tasks. So what I hope to cover with you guys today is kind of review some items again, just to kind of show you guys a little bit about some of the data we've captured already, again, if you haven't attended already to any of the previous ones. And then we're going to go into Batch Suite and show how we can do some cleanup on the model, use sheets, swapping, removing elements in the model that are not up to par or to company standards, and then how to clean things up. So there's a couple of different workflows that we're going to cover as we dial or as we dig into this today. So again, I like doing demos. No need for death by PowerPoint. First place I'm starting is within some of showing off some of the data that has been captured. So again, this is the Hive Portal, and this is some of the overviewed items or some of the items that we are capturing with the Hive Project Activity Logger or Hive PAL. And one of the things that may be important to gather information on is information about the model performance, how long it's taking people to sync to central or open the models or level of warnings within there, bits and pieces such as that. But again, it can be very high level. We're not really getting into the weeds with this one, but it'll show you, if we're missing links, and if they're not needed, why are they still here? How about we just get rid of them? How many views do we have? How many of them are, how many unplaced items, things of that nature. So I can start to kind of get an idea of maybe which projects need some attention, need some cleanup, things like that. So, I've got a fair amount of unused families, unplaced rooms, there's a number of things here that can get cleaned up. We can also discover some of that information over here within our snapshot reports. So this is a Power BI file that comes with our data suite, and what we're looking at here is snapshots of projects taken, and I have the ability to get a pretty wide swath of data based on what projects I've taken snapshots for, and where are we having some issues. So what I'm going to do here first is refresh some of my data and maybe get an idea of what we're looking at here. So maybe if I open not this one, but where'd it go? This one. So I can start to get a feel for what's in the model and if anything needs to be removed. So I can see I've got a fair amount of families up in here, a fair amount that aren't even being used at this point. So there's some cleanup that could happen. What else? We've got lots of, we got a decent amount of materials, but they're all in use. So I've got nothing to worry about here. So I could just use this as a guide to maybe tell me if anything needs to be cleaned up. I can dial it in even further and get a list of the parameters are there, or the work sets that are there, or groups, links, warnings, and things I've shown off in the previous ones are component families, or views and sheets, or the in-place families, or various bits. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop into that particular file and try to do a little bit of cleanup here using Project Processor. And then there's another piece to this, another workflow that I'm going to show you after we do this. So Project Processor, part of our BIM batch suite, and it is this guy here. If it lets me click on it. And effectively what this tool allows me to do is add or remove or replace or rename or create a bunch of items that we've covered. So we can do this on a handful of files at the same time, right? I can just make sure that they're listed here. And I'm just I can add a number of different files or a folder with a bunch of files in it into this list, right? And it will process all of them. Or I can have just one file, and it can be the current open project, or it can be something else that I'm working with that, that I've discovered in my report, yet I want to make sure that it opens, does its thing, saves and closes the file, right? So if it's open, it's just going to do it. If it's not open, it'll open, process, save, close. So kind of depends on, where you're at and what you're working on at the time. So, so what I'm going to do is just kind of walk through the entire process here and show you everything that's available. So we have the projects tab where you list everything out. The processes tab, which this is where all the dirty work happens. So we have the ability to first start at the file level, and I can, if it's a non-work shared project, I can tell it to get rid of backups, or if it is a work shared one, get rid of, clean up the backup folders and such. Open with audits, open detached, save, and if I'm saving, where is it? Same spot, or move it to a new location, right? So the moving to a new location might be good for upgrades, project upgrades, or if you are preparing the model to be sent to a consultant, or if you are receiving a model from a consultant and you want to make sure that the file performs as well as it possibly can, so you're going to run your own little cleanup on it, right? So there's a couple of different uses here. So in this case, I would set it up for cleanup, come back again, and I'll set one up for either a received file from a consultant or a file that I'm going to send off. So in this case, I always like auditing, so I would do an audit and not save it to a new spot, but save it into the original location. Then we have the clean options. So this is where I can go ahead and add or remove items from any one of these different categories. So for example, sheets. Maybe if I want to hit add here, I can say, let's add, I add a row here, and then what do I want to do? Right, is it used or empty? Drawn by, sheet numbers, property values, right? And this is gonna go ahead and let's see. Let's grab, let's just do this. I'm gonna grab a specific sheet that is the lower level plan, and I'm just gonna set it to all. Okay, and then we'll go here. So, we have the ability to kind of remove effectively, clean up stuff based on discipline or what type of view it is, or if it's a dependent view or not, or its dependencies, phases. Are there any templates applied, kind of thing. I can also, do various tasks here with this. So I mean, this is just, it's kind of all here, right? Now, normally what I end up doing is I jump to swap because it starts to rein it in a little bit. So like a dimension style here, if I want my linear dimension style, this one, and I want to replace it with, actually I want to do that the other way. I want this one, and then I'm going to replace it with this one, right? So here's type swapper, effectively, is what we're looking at. And then text types. If I want to take this style and replace it with that style, right? I would prefer all my text to be at 330 seconds instead of 8, then shrink it down a little bit. And then, and you can have as much as you want in here, and you can actually set all of this up inside of a configuration file and for later use, and kind of use this as needed. You know, and maybe you use it periodically throughout the duration of a project. You've got one that does regular, you know, health checking maintenance type stuff, and you do one that prepares files for distribution, or one for receiving files, for example. Line styles. Let's see, do I have any line styles that I don't care for? I mean, no, I mean, they're all fine. So I'm gonna make one up. I'm gonna say we don't need 8 because that's just huge. So let's go ahead and put that down to 5. And then I'll add another one. And we'll go 7 to 5, 6. Oops. There, we'll just do it like this. Okay, just so that there's some stuff in there. Same thing, we have line patterns. We can go ahead and swap line patterns as well. So sometimes CAD files get exploded. You have all that stuff that says import, and instead of actually going through the process and manually swapping those yourself, you can actually you could use this tool then and say grab all the import ones and say they need to be this dashed line or that dashed line or this center line or this hidden line or this grid line. So you've got a number of options to choose from here. So let me see, I'm gonna take this grid line and I'm just gonna put it at grid quarter. Where'd it go? Actually, oops, I deleted the wrong one. This to this, okay. Same thing with fill patterns, right? If you've got users, you know, bringing importing AutoCAD or exploding AutoCAD, that stuff becomes available. So you can select patterns that, you know, are not part of the standard or not familiar to you, and, you know, swap them out with something else like glass lines too. Excuse me, that doesn't belong here. But I don't really have my, oh, there's the one I want, stone. That stone pattern needs to go to something else. And I just, you know, I'm gonna, in this case, pick my vertical one for now. But, you know, hopefully the odd names are the ones you don't need. So, and then materials. So again, this is just like what we're seeing with Type Swapper. So we get the same, you know, flexibility, the same tools, same rules apply. In this case, I'm not going to worry about materials. Materials were fine. Then I'm going to go to the purge set. And the purging is a, you know, a little less customizable in a sense, so that we don't have the exact breakdowns like you would within the purge unused window, right? However, I have the same, I can nail out the same categories, right? So in this case, I am going to get rid of, you know, I didn't really do anything with families. Materials were already okay, so I don't need to worry about them. Fill patterns I swapped. So I'm gonna go ahead and purge out the unused deals there. Hopefully I will have some after doing my swaps. The renaming aspect here, same, again, this is something kind of like what I did with spreadsheet link potentially, right? Where you can rename views and sheets, but this also allows us to rename the templates and filters if, you know, if we duplicated some of those and then forgot to rename them after the fact. This is a way we can go ahead and clean some of that stuff up if necessary. So, you know, and this is one where we can add almost like a formula in a sense, so that we can hit more views instead of just doing them kind of one at a time. So I can say in all of my coordination views that are 3D, right? And in the new construction phase, let's change something about them, right? So it can either be, we can rename them, or we can do something else. Like we have some options here to choose from, right? So I can control some other property to find and replace with. This is really good for, renaming things. So I can say find based on, let's see, what did I say? Anything, let's do this. I don't remember. I'm gonna go ahead and do this and replace with there. So, or, I can just say, which one is it? Do a full rename if I want. Or, well, you know what, let's go back to that one. Templates, oops, same thing. I can rename, I can specify the one, or, go find it, rename it. Filters, same thing. Sheets, same thing, right? So this is allowing me to go ahead and, do the cleanup as needed. So depending on what, you can either filter by who it was drawn by, or, in this case, I'm going to do I would do everything potentially, right? But, pretty sure all of my sheets were kosher in this case, so I'm not gonna, I don't even know what I would rename them to in this case. So another thing we can do here is we can add parameters to the project, and we can define. So if this was, say, early stages, I could add, oh, I gotta map my shared parameter first. So let's do these. I can hit add, and what it's gonna do is list every single parameter in that file and all the groups. So I can go ahead and expand, find what I'm looking for here. So maybe I need some information about some of my consultants. So I can go ahead and I'll work with my, let's go with my electrical guys and mechanical guys. And yeah, that's good. And now I can pick the category in which they need to be applied to. In this case, it's also part of project information. Hit OK. And now I can specify what type, a little bit more about this, right? Do I need to, is it an instance-based or type-based? Well, because it's project info, it's got to be instance. What parameter group do I want to put it in, right? So this, again, it's just like if you were to add it yourself, except now I can add all 5 at the same time. Identity data works for me. And I can also input the default, I can input values here if I need to, or just leave it blank because we don't necessarily know who's working on it yet. And I can then make sure that it does, I can add it, or if I'm doing the clean out, maybe I want to remove it. If maybe it's a file that we received from somebody and we're taking over, we can replace it with something else that's already there, or remove it altogether. In this case, I wanna add these. All right. Then the last big thing is linked files. So if there were any sort of links present, whether it's CAD based or Revit based, or anything that is kind of referenced in a sense, and keynotes and uniformat files, they are part of that. We have the ability to, in a sense, update those or remove them, or in this case, it's not removing, we're just, it's like a reload from kind of a deal, right? So I can say, take this CAD file, and which is just by name, and go ahead and find it at this path, but replace it with a file at some other path. Right? I could go ahead and handle that. Or if I had duplicates in there for whatever reason, I can make sure that the appropriate one is being used consistently. So, but that's what, this is kind of like the extreme basic import link manager. I'm not going to touch anything with the link at this moment because I don't want it to take too long, right? If I did something from every single category, this might take a while. So, but keep in mind, it's doing a ton of work for me, right? How long would it take for me to do all this on my own? In a lot of cases, one at a time. So it's doing all of this at once. So I'm just gonna, and you can uncheck the box if you don't want the program to even think about it, right? You just skip that category altogether. So, maybe this is my swap and purge. So and I added a couple of things. So we'll keep it at that. Last but not least is, and I skipped it at the beginning, but we have an area for scripts. Now, what this allows you to do effectively, and I don't really have a great example for this, but what it does allow you to do is load up files, program executable files, scripts, batch files, or, if anybody's familiar with PowerShell, you can load up some PowerShell scripts and run some post-processing type functions or pre-processing functions, depending on what the intent is here. So maybe you're purging up and cleaning up a model to send off to a consultant, right? So you would then load up a script that would take the file, maybe zip it, and then post it to some type of FTP, or to a into new forma, or to your Dropbox folder location, or something, or your share file spot, right? Something along those lines. Maybe you can configure some type of a script to process that for you. Same thing goes on at the beginning. You could then, instead of from the beginning, maybe you're receiving a model and you want to clean it up before getting it linked into your projects. You can run a script that says, go here, download said file, then save it here, then run it through all this stuff, and away you go. So you have the ability to add additional tasks to this if they can be scripted. So, and again, if they can be scripted in one of the supported formats here, whether it's an executable, CMD, bat file, or PowerShell script. So, yeah. So then at this point, what I would do is verify that everything here is in order. It's already open, so I'm not gonna worry about this part. And I would effectively hit start, right? Now, I'm not gonna run it because I don't necessarily want to show you guys. It may take a little bit. That's all I'm saying, because I do have a fair amount of things going, and it's got to invoke the purge command. It's got to invoke, swapping families, things of that nature. But effectively, when it's done, it's going to say process was successful. These things were done. It'll throw up errors telling you if certain other things were not completed. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward when you get to that point. And again, if you have various techniques that you want to fulfill, right? So in this case, maybe this is my, I should leave that unchecked. Maybe this is my, my standardization script. Save it. And let's see, I'm gonna go ahead and put it, come on, put it here. And we'll call it CTC standards checking or something along those lines. And then, maybe I want to go through the process of setting one up that cleans everything up from a consultant that I get, right? So, instead of swapping stuff, maybe it's just a matter of purging out everything, right? And just making sure that what I have is what we want it to be, right? So in this one, I'm not gonna know where to get these, so I'm not even gonna, with the links, you're not gonna be able to find them if it's something you're receiving. So, big old purge, let's get rid of everything. And then I could add, and I could just save that as a configuration, right? So that, right? And then maybe there's another one that you want to save for your internal company standards where you would have a, purge, in this case, purge CTC for distribution, right? So, and maybe you don't want to purge out everything, but you also don't want a lot of proprietary stuff in there. So you can go through, swap out some stuff, rename some parameter values, swap the links out with some placeholder type stuff or something along those lines. I don't really know. There's various things that would need to happen so that each company wants to do some various cleanup techniques. So in this case, I've got a, hopefully, fingers crossed, a simplified one here. Maybe it'll let me, maybe it won't take that long. So I'll just hit start. I kind of wanted to show what the end result would be, just so you guys are familiar with something. But with all that being said, that's ultimately it. Giving, this tool effectively consolidates or provides features from a handful of the other tools that we've covered in previous weeks. So just to kind of go back to what some of those products were, this particular tool does some basic import link manager items, allowing me to work with some of the links. It does type swapper stuff, so I can swap dimensions, text, line styles, line patterns, fill patterns, materials, right? Almost the entirety of what type swapper is. Project cleaner, big purging tool. We can also do a fair amount of purging with this. Spreadsheet link I used as an example to help rename stuff. I could do that with this tool. And the view creator one we also used to help rename a few things, but mostly that was view creation. So, but yeah, and project processor allows me to do a lot of those simultaneously, or I guess I should say in an order shown, so that certain things can't get done too early in the process, right? And you can kind of control the order in which these things happen. Yeah. So, and then again, I can do this on multiple files at the same time. So if you choose to do that, you may want to consider having more of a dedicated machine in a sense, because it will go ahead and start to zap a lot of the resources on said machine, especially if you have, a couple, say you had 4 models that you were trying to run and each one was in the 200 meg range, right? And you were running tasks from 4 or 5 different categories. You may want to consider having a dedicated device for that, because that's going to slow things down and make working on it a little sluggish. So, yeah. So with that, I would like to open it up to any questions. If anybody has any, feel free to ask in the questions panel here. And I also want to mention while I'm waiting is that I would love to hear if you guys have any new ideas or new workflow topics that you would like to see. If there's any pain points or struggles that you guys have, or things that are taking a very long time for you to do, and you find yourself not looking forward to that task because you don't know of you feel like there should be a faster way to do it, but you don't know if there is. Or you think that you should be able to do it with these tools, but you're not sure how you would go about doing that. I would love to hear those ideas. So if you have something like that, I would love to hear it so that we can, make another, have another webinar such as this to kind of highlight those workflows and those features. So if you have ideas or have tools that you would like to learn more about, please send an email to feedback@ctcsoftware.com. Or you can send an email to our support team or any of us really. If you've got one of our, or you can reply to the marketing emails that you got. Any option works. We would love to hear from you. Thanks everyone for showing, and hope all of you stay safe and take care. Thank you.